Here's the thing about your movie, why I made a curator's pick of the Hollywood Fringe Festival. Community, heart,
Hey, welcome in. This is how we're going to be doing. This is our first test of the podcast. I'm going to be with your host, Franklyn G from EP1. You know how I do, Like It Is Radio and The Breakdown. Both shows trying to connect Las Vegas to the larger black diaspora through black intelligent talk radio. We're going to be doing the same thing on this podcast with a couple of more entertaining features. We hope to be going out to the community, doing a couple of spots in a couple of places. Local black businesses, we're going to highlight that. We're also going to work within trying to talk about what's going on here in Vegas with several Vegans to let you know black people are here and on the map. I got my man Crazy D from Lordland Films who's been putting all his videos down, making it award-winning, and now we're setting it up to make sure this podcast works. What's up, Crazy D?
Hey, what's going on, Franklin?
And you know, I'm sitting here with my man from M.O.E Films, right? Am I messing that name up?
It's all good. It's M.O.E Media. No worries about it. M.O.E Media, and basically just a platform where indie artists can come together. And no one's got us like us is definitely the motto. And I'm just here, glad to be a part of it. How you guys doing?
Yo, we're doing great, man.
Doing great.
Putting it all together, you know, it's all a family thing. It's all the fabric to get this information out to the community. It's a cooperative effort. So if you're interested in doing some work with us, we want to come to your location. We want to support you by having some advertising to direct people who are coming to town to Las Vegas, not just to the radio station, not just to the club, but to black businesses. I think it's important that we reach out in 2018 on the heels of the Black Panther, on the heels of the Kemron Desert Series we just got finished with. We got the technology, we got the energy, we got the passion. We're going to make it happen to the next level here in Vegas. So what's going on, Crazy D? How did this happen?
Oh, how did it happen? It just so happened that, you know, I have the film, you have the intellect. We all have intellect, but you have the intellect. And then my man over here at M.O.E Media, he has the ability to put this down on a podcast. So here we are.
Most definitely.
That's how it happened.
And this energy that we get from the youth is all collective right here. Even with the podcast and the technology you may see in front of you, you made this happen, man. We appreciate that because you helping getting the word out through the next level. We got radio, we got video, we got podcasts coming right now. Television's next.
Most definitely. It's like a quiet storm just waiting to happen, man. I'm definitely glad to help you guys out, man.
Plus it's 3 generations.
Intergenerational.
That's right. So we're going to get perspective from 3 generations in this piece. And this is going to be great.
And from time to time, we'll engage other individuals. We'll try to get some, if you will, estrogen in here also because it's important that we in dialogue and have the entire balance we need. That's why it's important to get a perspective from the youth and to make sure that the youth is incorporated by what we're doing. Because the technology that takes us to the next level may be out of my grasp. He brings a certain level. When you put it all together, it's like peanut butter and jelly. Smooth.
Tasty.
Creamy. I mean, mess with all that. But this is our first attempt at it, so we just want to thank you for looking in, seeing how this product will work. If you're interested in getting involved with it, we're interested in having your involvement. We want to come to some local restaurants here in Las Vegas because black people got restaurants here. And black people do spend money and the food is good. So we're going to do some of that stuff and then we're going to go around to some of the local shops because it's important that you know when you come to Las Vegas, there's more than just a strip. You can put up Power 88 and find out what's happening through several of the dialogue programs that will ensue there. We'll try to get some of those hosts that do those shows to come up here and do this thing too. We don't know what to call it yet. We're going to leave it wide open. But I know that between the 3 of us, we'll come up with something great. Because I know Crazy D shoots all kinds of stuff. So have some
He's
intellect.
brainstorming right now as we speak, huh?
Yeah, it's brainstorming. You know, maybe it should be called Frank Food Fridays. Frank Talk on a Friday at a restaurant in Las Vegas. Black people talking black situations, black topics in a black-owned business.
Why not? That's the way it's supposed to be. We used to do that around the baobab tree. You know, put all our goats together and find a shady area to kind of dialogue, tell the stories about the rain and the floods and who was born and who's gone. So that's what we're going to try to do in an entertaining black perspective because I believe inside every Negro is an African.
There's an African.
Nice. Love it.
Yeah, because you know, Negroes are only here in America. Every place else, they're just black.
True that.
But in America, they call you a Negro for a long time. But those kind of things we'll describe and talk about as we come up with Dr. King's 50th anniversary, well, not an anniversary, commemoration of the loss of Dr. King. He was assassinated on April 4th, 1968. Now we're on April 4th, 2018, 50 years later. So we're going to go to the statue. Is it a dream deferred? Is there something going on that we need to dialogue about? Because, I mean, the Dr. King perspective is different in your generation than ours, isn't it?
Definitely is.
What is it? Did we drop the ball on that?
And what I feel like as a youth growing up, there was holes in the history. And I don't think you dropped the ball specifically on that. I think the school system where I came from definitely dropped the ball on that, because it's just holes in the history. A lot of things we don't know. A lot of things we weren't taught. A lot of things we weren't encouraged to go and research about Dr. King that we didn't know. So now when the time comes around, it's just a day off. You know, it's just a holiday. We know the history. We post pictures on Instagram. And what does that do? I really wish that the details weren't punched out and we learned a lot more.
And was it a conspiracy? A conspiracy to keep us from learning about Dr. King?
Well, that's what the conspiracy to keep us from learning. What they gave us to learn was a 6-minute speech of "I Have a Dream," and that was the early part of his life. But if you look at all the speeches that he gave after that, when he started to become, if you will, more conscious in terms of after he traveled to President Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana, after he went to Jamaica, after he understood some of the plight that befell Malcolm and some of the things that the government was doing to him, his speeches changed. He started talking about how white people were getting land back in the early days of America, that are now colleges that gave them a benefit. He also talked about the military-industrial complex. So towards the end of his career, and even as he said, I think I've integrated my family into a burning house. Those aren't the things they give us. They give us this placid, nice, calm, low-tone Dr. King. And he was actually quite fiery, because if you think about it, it was very revolutionary in that time to say, I want equal rights to white people, as subjugated as we were. And they didn't have the groups that we had. There was no 100 Black Men. There was no Urban League. There was the NAACP, and they created SNCC and those other organizations. But now we're overfilled with organizations. We didn't have mass media. So I think his revolutionary stuff is the one I look at when I examine Dr. King, the latter part of his life.
The question is, are we ready for what's getting ready to come down the pipe? You know, it's already happening, but, you know, they've had him so tied up with the Russia investigation that he hasn't been able to unleash fully on us what he plans on releasing on us, some people think. So are the organizations that we have, are they ready? All of these organizations, are they ready to pick up where Martin Luther King left off?
I would say no, because they would have picked up afterwards. They had Obama, we didn't pick up. We would have picked up under Clinton. Those groups are, for lack of a better term, profiting the fact that Negroes stay out of the system. And the fact that he's not worried about us right now is a benign neglect. It's cool. He ain't worried about us because we're not worried about us. Black people ain't standing up for black people. And as I said, as long as the country's in this malaise that we seem to be currently in, our issues won't be addressed. DACA's not going to be addressed. Gay's not going to be addressed. They're trying to put the hopes on white women for 2018, 2019 to change the system. Is that going to change the system? That's going to be women's issues. That'll be similar to what happened during the abolition movement. That'll be similar to what happened to us during the women's suffrage movement. Even that what happened to African Americans in the civil rights movement. Once it became black power, all of a sudden white women were removed. It became ERA. It became different things, affirmative action. And that removed the impetus of color from the larger discussion about who's being disenfranchised.
And that's because some of our leaders thought that we had arrived, so they moved from the streets to the suites.
Oh,
and they forgot about the rest of us?
For sure. That's how they get reelected. We see that all the time. We see that's not even a black thing. That's a look at the NRA. All the people who are now who are NRA supporters, they say there's 5 million. But when you think about it, they're saying there's more like 14 million because they're in control of certain seats of Congress. So it's more effective because the impact that one organization, by lobbying or having them paid for lobbyists, keeps guns in everybody's hands. So they're not talking about anything black. But if black people start getting guns, which is what NRA was founded under, when black people took up arms in Oakland under the Panthers, Ronald Reagan changed the law. So what are you going to do? Most black people will suffer through, and the economy doesn't change whether the stock market goes up and down for the black community. We're not invested in that. We don't have pensions for the most part, nor do we have stocks and bonds for the most part. So black people will still stay stagnant. We'll still stay under the river, or under the current, if you will.
And I want to go back to when you said we're not worried about us, because that's the harsh reality of it. And people my age, we don't want to make a big deal until the problem is seen, and then 2 or 3 weeks later we got the short attention span and it's gone. So like what can we do to be worried about us? Like how can we be more aware of what's going on even after it goes viral, and even after all the situations happen, you know, like for instance, police brutality, of course. For instance, these white kids shooting up school, and then they're all claimed as mental illness. And then when a black person does something crazy, they die.
Well, you definitely don't get any compassion, like you said. They don't care if you are homeless. We know that there have been women who've been sent to jail for shooting at their husbands who were domestic violence survivors. We know that African American youth have made indiscriminate mistakes, where they might have offloaded a gun in some instance, and they get time. So I guess white privilege is just becoming more evident and prevalent because of mass media and your educational youth group. You guys are more aware than us. You have the ability to be more aware. So it's basically up to you guys to change it. I don't think
we use it enough, honestly.
Well, they're using it now with the kids in Florida, you know, and I mean, at least that community understands, the youth that are there, that they can be impactful.
What the shooting in Florida shows is that the people in power don't care any more about the white kids than they do the black kids.
That's for sure.
At first, it was an illusion that they cared about the white kids and less about the black kids. But look at this. When a black person is killed by a police officer, they protect the police. When white kids are killed by a mass shooter, they blame it on the police. Either way, they care about either group. They care neither about neither group. Either group. They care about neither one of the groups. Period. So what that's showing is that, like, the Panthers came up later, Huey P. Newton came up later and said it has to be not intersectionality, but intercommunal connection between various groups.
Is that possible?
No. Let me finish though. Let me finish. I didn't say that I necessarily believe that. I'm just throwing it out there that if white kids really want to be seen, because you notice that when they were in front of the White House, they had their arms crossed like Wakanda.
Here we go.
And they had "Don't shoot." They took the last 2 parts of "Hands up, don't shoot." It's like, what good is saying "Don't shoot" to a mass shooter? And you're co-opting everyone's for themselves. And this is what I believe, that black folks, we have no friends. We have no allies. We're in it by ourselves, so we have to learn to love ourselves first. And then everything will fall into line after that.
Well, it starts with educating yourself, so we got to become more educated, because when you become familiar with your history, you're more likely to stand up for it. What keeps the Jewish tradition going? Jewish history. What keeps Hispanic culture going? Spanish culture and the language. So Africans need to, at least African Americans, seeing that we're probably, unfortunately, at the lead of what it is when it comes to melanated people, because Asians won't accept the melanatedness, and I'm meaning Pakistani guys and things like that. So you figure the African American is the most intellectually gifted and academically gifted at this time. If we become more educated about what we're doing, like when we had Professor Kwesi and we had Professor Runoko Rashidi or Baba Smalls, if your generation gravitated towards that, it's a time now with on the heels of Black Panther to gravitate towards that stuff. You know, there's the bones, the history is the meat.
No, we have to know that our history is Wakanda.
Is it?
And that's what it is, Wakanda. I mean, there are churches preaching Wakanda sermons through April.
Yeah, well,
yes, sir. I mean,
is that what we want? Is that what we need?
I mean, here we are. That is our Black history.
Is
our
it?
Black history starts in 2018.
Come on,
Wakanda, T'Chaka is Jesus.
It's crazy.
And Wakanda is the promised land.
Is it?
Is it?
I enjoy the movie. I'm great. I'm not putting the movie down. And it's a kids movie. Let's be honest. It's a kids movie. All right. I mean,
with social issues put
Yeah,
in
what's
because
social
of the
issues?
director
You remember
and the
Bugs
director.
Bunny? Bugs Bunny used to wah, 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 wah. Bugs Bunny was as racist as they come. They sanitized him. But do we want our images of whatever it's historical or not coming from Hollywood again? Or do we want Hollywood educating our kids? Isn't that the rap question? Isn't that the fashion question? Isn't that the television question? Do we want Hollywood, whether it's black actors or black writers, educating our kids?
And personally, I want more knowledge on where I come from before slavery and before the Hollywood, the fake Wakanda, the fake ships flying through the air and black people with superpowers. I definitely want that. And people my age, they don't know much about where they come from before slavery. And I think that definitely this Black Panther thing. I heard a lady say that that she thought T'Challa, she put T'Challa next to Obama. They were at a Black Panther screening, and Chadwick Boseman would come out and surprise them. They would ask him how they feel about the movie. A lady said, "I'm so glad my son got to watch this because he got to watch so many black heroes come up, Obama and T'Challa." And T'Challa's not a real guy. You guys know this.
T'Challa is gonna be the savior.
Isn't it crazy?
Listen, if this world was wiped away tomorrow, people, if it was wiped away tomorrow, and then a new amoebas came from out the ocean and it all started over again, and they undug everything, they would find video of black people happy about Wakanda, and they will say, T'Chaka is Jesus.
Well,
and
that's the
Wakanda
question.
is the place that you're trying to go after you pass away from here. That's what will happen. That's what's going to happen.
What's going to happen is somebody's going to name their kid T'Challa. And you know there's going to be a Wakanda out there. Come on. But the reality is look at Carter G. Woodson, his thought of starting Negro History Week. It was to make the largest society, meaning white folks, aware of the achievements of African Americans and some of the things that they've done to make this country better, so that they would hopefully reduce the impact of racism if they became more familiar with some of the things African Americans at that time had contributed to this great country, which is the same thing. By giving us the history, it would have sustained or removed some of the natural racist pedigree that exists. Would Carter G. Woodson be glad that now we have a comic book hero, as we're looking at in terms of you saying it's the savior? And I'm not putting the movie down. I appreciate the people who worked and put it together and the images that they were giving our kids. But we had Thurgood Marshall movie. Not to say he was the best guy. We had Thurgood. But last year we had 12 Years a Slave. We've had other movies. We didn't do this for Malcolm. Historical people. Good, bad, or indifferent movies. These were historical people our children could have gravitated to. Would Carter G. Woodson look down and say, this comic book hero manifests itself as what my vision was to give black people pride?
And you know who played in the Thurgood Marshall movie?
The same guy.
Chadwick Boseman.
And no offense intended to him. We look at him as now being the black savior. If you look at all of those actors, just to put it right, the images that they have in their own perfect life or imperfect life, they were all married to white women.
Who?
All of them.
Not all of them.
Who?
Don't say all.
Well, to the lead guy.
Chadwick Boseman married
No.
a white woman?
Is he?
No.
I seen pictures.
No, that was a sister.
Who's the other
him
one?
standing with.
Who's the other one?
I don't know. It was some guy that came to see the movie. I didn't even see him in the movie.
Is the director married to a white
I
woman?
don't know.
No,
I withdraw my statement. I thought I saw something that they were standing next to women that they were in their wives. Yeah, we got that's the beautiful thing about a podcast. We'll get back to you on that one. We don't want to spread any misinformation. But even if you look at Thurgood Marshall, these kind of individuals, we didn't celebrate their lives with movies to tell our children these were images of successful men that you can be.
Okay. What about interracial relationships? Have we not come to the point where we can now just say, okay, live and let live? People who choose to date outside of their so-called race. I thought we were only one race with people who are melanin deficient at the end who are causing all the damage. But I thought we were all, some were melanin deficient, but we were all from, the origin started from the same place. When will we get over the fact that people choose to date out a fictitious racial difference. When will we get over that? Or will we ever mature to the point where we can get over that?
Not as long as the numbers in terms of black women that are lonely. No.
Yeah, true that.
No, and not as long as our most successful in terms of the camera and giving visualization of what the images of success are. A change.
Are black women lonely? Because I
Yeah.
look on the internet and I see a lot of black women interracially dating.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I see
Why not?
a lot of
They don't wanna
black
be
women
lonely.
interracially being disgraced on film on certain
Well, we disgrace
over
our
the internet. So what I'm saying is, are black women really lonely, or are they interracially dating?
They're interracially dating, but there's a large masses of them that are still lonely.
Yeah,
That's the bottom
pretty
line.
much both.
Because
When do we get over it? When do we
No,
get
why
over
should
it?
they-
Will we get over it?
no, why should they? If they're right to feel that you see so many of our leading African American men with white women on their shoulders, they're always going to be mad.
It creates a stereotype,
Okay,
right?
why? You know, I'm playing devil's advocate here because anyone who knows me. But anyway, listen. When a black man has a white woman on his side,
True.
there's a problem when a sister has a white man on her side. It seems to be less of a problem. You go, sister.
No, I
you
was mad
go.
about Sarina.
You go.
No, I'm mad about Sarina. Come on now.
Sarina gave these black men a chance. She was dating Drake, and when
A
he
Canadian. That ain't African American. All right, let's call it real. Let's call it real. You know, come on. And he could be at least, you know, he's one of the original Jews, so we got a lot of issues going with it. You know, he's a Sephardic Jew.
Do you think that falls back into the stereotype? Because Sarina Williams is a big, strong woman. Do you think that falls into the physical stereotype?
Probably his. I mean, don't get me wrong, the white dude, her husband.
You saying
He
it's some
likes
kind of fantasy?
her,
Yeah, for sure. Don't get me wrong. I'm on that list. I'll be on the long list. I ain't lying. Look at the physicality of this individual. It's like the way women revered Mike Tyson. The physicality of him. All heavyweight champs, even Ali. It's just what it is. The physicality behind it. She's a great tennis player. She's probably a great person. No offense, she's probably from Compton, but not anymore. Not anymore. That's just the reality of it. That's where her
She's
youth
still
was.
beautiful. She's still beautiful.
Oh, she's far. Oh man, please, with the baby and all.
It's weird how strong of a person her father was.
Who's been ostracized?
No, but
Kicked out.
But he was a strong figure who didn't allow them to be browbeat by the media.
Correct.
I remember seeing a videotape where he
Stop the
chimes in
reporter,
and says, "What are you doing? Why would you ask her that question?" But and then to turn around and see who they would choose as mates when those were the people who were trying to
Not so much that
take them. Go ahead.
In as much as you fall into, and you know what happens, like when you go to college or when you're separated from the masses, you run with who you run with. And at her level, ain't too many brothers running with that level, that tennis or whatever, going to put up with that lifestyle, who have their own money, who don't have to work or whatever. So she's in that social status, in that superstar status, where if she wanted a basketball player or a football player, she could have it. She chose what she wanted because of the level that she's at. And, you know, it's the same thing what happened to Janet. Janet married out, now she can't do out. You know what I'm saying? But at least, for whatever it is, you would think that the way they're putting up and the way they're dealing with each other, especially after the baby and all the trials and tribulations of being a tennis pro and him being a billionaire, they're still doing it. And I salute that. Even though he got her, I'm mad, I wasn't in that level. It's not like you can walk up and be like, yo, hey, how you doing? You want to hang out with me? And I want to hang out with you? It's going to be on that level.
My situation on it is, I believe if you're gonna love who you love, it's gonna come back to me anyway. That's my
Well, she had a beautiful black baby.
That's my thought. It's gonna come back to me anyway. But my thing is more economics.
True.
You know, she said, and we know that there's disproportionality as far as mortality, as far as women having babies. More black women die during childbirth than white women die. And she said that she almost died during childbirth.
Right.
So when the baby, if she had passed, and glad that she didn't, blessed that she didn't, but the baby would have went to him, and all of the riches
True. This is
would
true.
have went to him. my thing is, why do once black people get to a certain level and they have a certain economic status, why can't you keep it in the black community by marrying a black person? I mean, why can't you keep it in the community? This is real. This is very important. This is about the education factor that you're speaking about, and just self-love, and realizing that how we're going to build economics if we keep giving the economics away through that's a politic. That's a politic of mine.
But true, it's true. No, Dr. Claude Anderson elaborates on that because the wealth that would be distributed properly if they had engaged with a black person would stay in the black community. But at the same time, it goes back to who you socialize with. Like I said, she's socializing with that level of person, you know, and that's what it is. And having, you know, when you, like I said, when you go to college, or when you get to an environment like that, or even in the business world, as you move up, there are just less and less African or reflective people who are around you. And those are the people you tend to associate with and socialize with. And what you have common, you know, that's what you have in common with.
So what about the millennials? Does it matter?
You like who you like. You like who you like. I dated a white girl for the longest during high school. I was ridiculed at first. And then it started to become a trend to like interracial date just a little bit. And then it really turned out to you like who you like. And a lot of the cases too, a lot of people do it for selfish reasons. They're focused on the genes of the child. That's what I've heard before. They're focused on the
But I've heard that in
genes
black women too. They want a lighter child than they are. You know, they call me red bone.
They want the wavy hair.
Right.
They want it varies. It varies. But as I was growing up, I got ridiculed for dating a white girl. I dated a white girl all high school, and got ridiculed.
Take her to prom?
I did.
You got prom pictures, man? Oh, man.
I got the prom.
Don't take no pictures, man.
I got the prom pictures, and then.
You didn't shoot the club up?
Nah, man.
You didn't shoot the club up. You didn't get a wavy haired, light skinned child out of it. You didn't shoot the club up.
Not from her, man. Nah, and that's the thing too. It varies. You get to know somebody. You get to know because you guys aren't of the same culture, for instance, that just becomes like a blurred line. Like her stepdad, you know, her stepdad for a little bit didn't like the fact that I was black, you know, say little slurs here and there. My family, they're like, oh, Chris, dating a white girl. So that all like, you know, gets in your mind and starts to mess with things, man. At the end of the day, you like who you like. Just don't let anyone really tell you who to like, and switch your perspective on that person.
Don't get me wrong, I played in the snow too, but I never drug her home. But at the same time, you like who you like. You're receptive to who's receptive to you. And you do learn things, even in that cultural dynamic, you can learn things from them. I mean, in as much as some of their perceptions that they may have had, I mean, just in talking to them, because you become friendlier, you get to meet their friends. You find out you meet their family. Sometimes the family's down. Sometimes the friends are down.
Yeah, don't make sure the family's not no like hillbilly family, man.
But you just learn. You learn, and that's the situation. Because I've had good interracial dating, and then I've had bad interracial dating. You know, and as much as sometimes they don't even see you, and this is what happened to me. They didn't see me as an African American, so to speak. Oh, you know, you're not that like that. You know our music. You can hang out. You know, nah, I'm Public Enemy, baby. What are you talking about? You know.
Speaking of Public Enemy. See, to me, I never dipped in the snow.
Never.
Boy, winter's always around the corner.
I have snow in my family, but then my family, they went back and found black men and brought them back to me. So I'm happy, and black women that brought them back to me. So I'm happy about that. But listen. How much of it is because we can look at people in politics. Let's take Sarah Palin for instance. It's rumored. So we're going to say it's rumored and it's alleged, it's in certain books that she dated black athletes.
Oh, no, fact.
And then turn around and look at her now. So some of it is just experimentation. I remember back in my college years, we were in the club and Public Enemy's Can't Trust It came on. And I'm just standing there with my boys because I was in a rap group. We were all standing together. And here comes this white girl and she grabs me by an arm. Can't trust it now. And she comes talking about pulling me on it. And I was like, get off of me. Like, you know, what's going on with you? Like, no, I was pro-black. No, we're not dipping in the snow. You know what I mean? I got people in there, love my grandfather, you know what I mean? Beautiful, love him. But in the end, he liked that black woman. My mother and her 4 other siblings loved their black grandmother. And they went out and found men and women who looked like her, married them, and here I am today. And I am happy. And that may be the biggest problem why racism will never be eradicated, because they realize that it comes back to me. Or it comes back to you. Or it comes back to you. And they don't see themselves anymore. And that's the fear. And that's why racism, no matter how you dress, no matter how well-spoken you are, how educated you are, Obama is their biggest fear. So that's why they couldn't love him, even though he loved them. He was their savior, not ours.
But he's a representation of their fear.
Right, but he came as a savior to them. To me, he was their last chance, because he was the calm. Yeah, he was their last chance to say that their soul could be cleansed and be pure and be cleansed from this racial hate. And they turned around, and he was the calm before the storm, and now Trump is the storm.
I don't think
he's
Trump
showing,
is the storm.
He's showing
That's the wind
that
before
he
the
doesn't
storm.
care. He's the what?
The wind before the storm.
No, he's the storm.
Thunder and lightning.
He's the storm.
Nah,
He's the
nothing.
storm. And then it's going to be someone else that has to come in to calm the storm.
Nah.
Yeah, they do say whenever it's the best of times, get ready for the worst of times. Whenever it's the worst of times, get ready for the best of times.
That's it.
And that's black people. We've always survived. We've always survived, whether it was on the continent, or then floods, famine, war, disease. Black people still thrive, even in today's world. We got people surrounded by fire, on rocks, and then we got people living in those same cities, living large, but they survive. We always survive, and I think that's the thing, that even under this current administration here, we will survive, because if anything, as I had predicted Trump's victory on Power 88, that's right, Frank Adamus, I told y'all.
Wow.
I've been right for a few elections, but the ones who survive will be stronger. And that's all you can hope for. The same thing as we did in our oppression at different fronts. The strongest will survive. Yes, many will suffer, but that's the plight of man. It's in the Bible. It's on the walls in Kemet. There's always suffering. And there may always be capitalism, because capitalism is profited on race. My dogs agree.
It's an old saying in Cleveland that when it's getting ready to tear, they would talk about old buildings that the Jewish people would sell to black people that were then turned into black neighborhoods. That when they sold it to them, well, if you want to call it that, I don't see ghetto. I see black neighborhoods that if we think we could rebuild, but
gentrification.
No, we could regentrify it for us, by us, to sustain us. But when they sell an old building, it's on its last leg. So whenever they put a black person in charge of something, it's usually on its last leg, and that's what applied to Obama.
Yeah.
That America was on its last leg, and he brought it back from the brink, and now we have someone else is getting ready to take it to the brink again, and someone else is going to have to come in, and maybe white people will learn, or melanin deficient people will learn finally. We're going to start using that, because that sounds so much better.
There's too many words.
Yeah. Melanin deficient people will finally learn that their savior is embodied in the image of a black man or a black woman. That's their savior.
Well, they already know that,
I don't know what I'm saying is, I don't think they know that.
Yeah, Miss Laxalt. All our drugs come from a black woman. Henrietta Laxalt, right?
Okay.
Tell me about that.
Oh, yeah. Henrietta.
She was a lady that during the 50s, I want to say it was 50s, maybe 40s, the cancer drugs that we're using and the antibodies that she possessed were of such a superior nature that they were based in the medical industry, took her genes and is formulated, I don't know how many patents off of her healthy gene pool. I want to say it's not so much a gene pool, but what do they call those things that were there? I forgot the
DNA.
DNA, right? They were doing that. her DNA happens to be of a superior nature that was the basis for a lot of remedies, drugs, and I guess pills and all that kind of stuff. But there's a movie on her about her, HBO, Henrietta Laxalt, but that's the same thing. They know that Africans are usually stronger because if you remember the Nation of Islam, one of the first cures of AIDS was Kemron that came out of Kenya. Mm-hmm. That it was actually a lot of the same thing. They were the genes and the things of Kenyan young men. Mm-hmm. And they were able to use that to use Kemron and make one of the first anti-AIDS drugs if you are a suppressant. So they know we're physically stronger than them because whenever they get with us, so to speak, and you have an interracial, right, the child is going to have distinctly black features in a lot of cases, and in some cases hair and things of that nature. But the gene pool that they're afraid of is what President Obama represents.
But their zeitgeist as melanated deficient people has to be that their savior is coming in the form of a black man or a black woman. Why? Because black people have compassionate hearts. And for the most part. Now, there are some that will go on out and do something. But what I'm saying is, we have compassionate hearts, and we not necessarily would do the same to them as they would do to us. Look at South Africa, for instance. They're just now getting ready to strip the land from the white farmers that stole it from them in the first place. But it took first,
trial and error.
It took saying, okay, let's be conciliatory,
right,
towards the people and let them keep what they have, right. If it had been the reverse, it would have been automatic. It would have been 20 years later, 30 years later. It would have been instant.
So then they compared that to Mugabe, and you know how they treated Mugabe. So they had to do it in an equitable fashion to maintain South Africa's global status. You couldn't turn that over, no offense to the Africans that are there, you couldn't have turned that government over to them. You can't do it here. You can't turn the military over to them. I mean, they're not saying you couldn't. Over time, had they created a legacy to do that, but look who's still in control of the military. Who's still in control of the economy. The diamonds are still the biggest monopoly going. So don't get me wrong, they weren't going to turn it over because if they would have lost all of that. I sincerely believe in that. Not to say anything against my African brothers or anything like that. It's like the brothers here say, we need our own schools, we need our own cops. Nah, we need to fix the ones we got. We need to reform what we have. The same thing they need to try to do over there is reform what they have.
Okay, let's expand upon that. Because there are a lot of people who speak on revolution. And I was writing to this one, this was years ago, and she was like, we need to cripple the government and tear up the Constitution. I said, okay, what are we going to replace it with?
Correct. You,
and when I said that, she blocked me. And I was like, what are we going to replace it with? We're talking about revolution. Who in the revolution, who is kicking revolution, know about constitutional government? And what type of government are we going to have if we all of a sudden just wipe this one away?
Even before the government, can you run a power plant? Can you keep the water going? No. Can we feed ourselves? No.
Well, there are plenty of workers who know how to keep the
not melanated workers.
There are plenty of generals, sergeants.
No, I don't believe that. I'm not
admirals.
Turning that over.
There's humans that'll do it for free. There's no humans that will just stop everything and do it for the cause. They want something.
Right. If they're going to work the next day, they need to know they're getting paid the day after. I don't see us doing that. And I don't even see the compassionate white folks trying to I'm not about overthrowing the government. I'm about reforming the distinct things that make it unpleasant. And that's what you can do. I don't want to change the district. I don't want to take over the school district and try to educate. Nah, let's just fix what we got. It's already been in place, and black people have paid more than enough taxes to have it reformed properly. You can't change the police force. You can't do that. Who's going to fix cable when it goes down? You know
there are plenty of cable techs that are black.
That when they get shut out of their job, won't have access to those trucks because they're all locked up. And then also becomes even like city workers and things of that nature. Would you want a city worker or a construction worker working without a contract? You want them driving the bus if there's no bus contract? Suppose they're disgruntled.
They might take you and them and your kids off the side of
There you go. And you don't want disgruntled police. I mean,
suppose... No, you're saying, Franklin, as if there wouldn't be a transition period where people will be put into place to
Who's
take
gonna put
that
them
over.
there?
I mean, like the South African government has been quote unquote black for 20 years.
The president has been black.
That's what I'm saying.
Not the administrators, not the guys who hand out the driver's licenses.
This particular president has begun to
Make
switch that
change.
over.
Yeah, but
And even if, let's talk about this for a minute. Even if they get sanctions against them for doing this, and maybe some of those immigrants who are calling on Trump to let the white immigrants from South Africa come over. Oh boy, we're going to have some trouble.
Right.
But look, even if they do that, even if they have sanctions on them and they strip them down like what they did Zimbabwe, it will be a better existence, just like in Haiti. To them, they have pride because they won this war, the Haitian Revolution. They won it. They have pride in the poverty because they know that it's an artificial poverty. And it will be the same in South Africa. It will be an artificial poverty.
Nobody wants to live in
put
poverty.
place. Nobody wants to, but
That's
it
a
is
punishment.
Wait now.
You think
It's a
so?
better existence to have free government for the people, by the people, and work yourself out of it than to be oppressed by a group of people who are actually a minority in the country, which is actually yours. I mean, we're talking about South Africa.
No, I'm saying
not the United States.
if you had white flight from South Africa, meaning if blacks took over and pushed them out the way you're saying, there would be white flight because they would leave. I mean, the affluent ones who could leave would go to other countries, and that would leave that country in a similar state as Haiti because once those white business people leave or exploited all the stuff they could get out of it, they would leave South Africa alone, just as they do Haiti.
And so then that would mean that it would have to be black business from America
And that ain't happening.
going in.
That ain't happening. When's the last time you've been to South Africa?
Okay, last time we tried that, it was Ron Brown, and he went down mysteriously in a plane
Well,
crash.
there you go. Trying to develop black business on the continent.
Should we be talking about Ron Brown?
I love
Scratch that.
No, Ron Brown was the man.
No,
For
Ron
years,
Brown was the man, but
I was blessed to have the opportunity when I worked to talk with him for a little while, and he wore a button-down collar. You know those? Where you had the button on the bottom. I wore that for a long time, but as he said, it's just like Carter G. Woodson. In business, if they know about us, they'll do business with us. And that's some of the walls he was trying to break down as Secretary of Commerce before his plane was mysteriously brought down. But as you would know, they didn't want that. Even under Clinton. Now look at China, all up in Africa. If you're Chinese, you can go to Nigeria, marry a Nigerian woman, have a Nigerian Chinese baby, and that baby is a citizen of both China and Nigeria.
would that be considered like an anchor baby?
That would be considered an anchor baby here, but that may change the dynamic of the country because one day they'll be able to own land and be able to vote. So not so much within our lifetime, but the fact that they're building all the infrastructure, marrying these women.
But most likely, when the baby comes out and they look at their mother, they're gonna go find someone that looks like their mother,
I know that to be true.
it's gonna come back to me.
Oh,
so there we go.
Right. You better hope so.
Before we exit, I did have a question. I like to absorb and rebuttal. It's what Crazy D said earlier. He said that racism couldn't be eradicated. And my question is, I've always had this near impossible theory. Question is, I want a yes or no for both of you guys. Question is, if generation now were to only have interracial babies, interracial marriages, would that eradicate racism? You think interracial children would eradicate racism?
No.
Yes. Okay.
No, because there's always a class structure. It doesn't make a difference.
Because
Dark skin, light skin.
the people who want to stay in power will make it a light skin, dark skin thing like in Brazil.
That's a good answer.
Or even in Germany. There are whites who are German, but if you're not part of the Aryan race, blonde hair, blue eyes, so they would say that you are similar to Obama. You're biracial. You're still not one of us. Because even in England and places like that, Africans cannot be British. British is returned for white folks, Anglos. You become a product of the British, what is it called? British monarchy. You're a British subject. You become a British subject. you're not British. And that's the issue. So they would eventually erode away with whatever it is, the separation and first generation, because even the vampires do it. Whether you're a real vampire or you was half vampire bitten into it. So, that complexity of always separation and castigating down and stuff, that's
what was going on with the Jews. They said you were white, but you're mixed. You're not pure Aryan.
So basically, you guys are saying there will be that always one race that you are not. There will be that one race that you're not.
Correct.
You could be black, white. You're not Mexican. You make fun of a Mexican. You make fun of a German. You make fun of Italian. Things like that. The racist people, as if make fun of would be like basically just stereotyping.
They were stereotyping.
Because even like you said, even within the Jewish faith, the Jews, they're Sephardic Jews, they're Hasidic Jews, they're the traditional Jews. They're all Sephardic Jews were the original Jews who were black from Ethiopia, but they still treat them a little different. But they're Jews.
Aren't they? They're causing an exodus.
Right, they want them out the country.
Kicking them out of the country.
The same way Europeans want a lot of people who are not of
the
natural.
promised land.
Well,
the original Jews are being kicked out of the promised land.
Well, every mafia figure every Italian can't be in the mafia either.
Wow.
You got to be from Sicily. You got to be able to prove your lineage.
You have to be.
And
from
even
Sicily.
right here, Utah, there are Mormons, there are Jack Mormons, and then there are Mormons. Because unless you can show that you are from the line of Joe Smith, Brigham Young, and that's why they have the biggest genealogy pool. Because when you look at Ancestry.com, eHarmony, even the black one, they got the biggest mass of photographs from all these websites. They're looking for the original, or if you will, the Antichrist through facial recognition. So they got everybody's picture. You put your picture on Facebook, you got it. You go to the drugstore, they got it. You go to Ancestry.com, you give them your gene pool. You go to these things, and they're run by this particular group who has the biggest gene pool because they know from Brigham Young days who is who. And if you're not part of the higher part of the culture of Morganism or the mafia or whatever it is, they just don't let you in. So I think race, and it's always going to be out. Whoever is the lowest on the totem pole.
It's amazing. Good answers, both of you guys. I like that. I love the conversation.
So what did you think? What did you think, though, CeeMo? Do you think that it would eradicate it? That's
yeah. What's up, man? What's up?
You asked the question, so let's put you on the hot seat.
For a split second, I thought it would, but I was like, nah, you're being too naive because it's basically what we just talked about. You always, no one could be every race at once. You can't eradicate it with just two races. You can't eradicate racism with two races, interracial, no matter what. I don't think it'll be eradicated.
Now, as long as somebody can profit from it, hold the other person down with it. Nothing but the facts.
Nothing but the facts. Well, I think that's it for a first.
Let's see what that looks like. For sure, we gotta figure out a name. Something like that. I appreciate the Frank imponism, but I got enough hate mail coming in, so we may have to figure out a new name rather than just focus on me. But appreciate the time and the effort that you guys have put into doing this. And we'll be looking forward to the black community here in Las Vegas to try to support us with some of the businesses that we know exist. We want to come to your spot. We want to talk to you for a few minutes. We want to incorporate this into this new thing we're trying to put forth that will educate, entertain, and allow Black Vegas to come up. Because it's about coming up time. Nothing but the facts, son. And as we close out, what you got, Mo?
Yeah, basically, yeah. Keep on tuning in. Live, learn, and debate. That's what we do right here. And definitely, you can check me out on social media. I first pick C and M.O.E. That's more of everything media. M.O.E. X Media on the Instagram and Twitter. And as well, I do want to say, my sisters, I love you. Just because I dated a white girl, doesn't mean I don't like black girls. I love everybody. I love my sisters.
Give me your email address so they can send you directly.
Yeah, hit me up, all right, so you know it's real.
And feel free to leave your comments at the bottom of this, and we'll, bark back at you. No, if you're barking at us, we're going to bark at you. We're going to bark back out, so leave your comments at the bottom of this video or this podcast. And stay tuned for more. This is the first one. We don't know what we're going to call it. Maybe we should leave it up to you to call it. Just don't call it a bag of shit, okay?
And hit that subscribe button as well.
Yeah, that's right. So stay tuned. And for right now, we're done with the test.
Nothing but the facts.